What would I like to say to my dad? This has been a fucking long ass time coming. Here's all the evidence that I remember. In public, you'd take pictures of children constantly, especially little girls. When we go to the water park, I remember you taking pictures of as young as 5-year-old girls in their bikinis. At the Renaissance Fair, I remember you taking pictures of even babies in their strollers in front of their parents and mom. And when they got creeped out sometimes and said why, you would say, just because, with a creepy smile on your face for your gross collection. You would pay to kiss us, which I later learned is not normal for families. You left adult sex magazines laying around, Hustler. I found CP in your closet, and those of you who know, you know what CP is, and what you would probably call it is nude child art, quote unquote. My behavior itself is testament to your own character, because I was super sexual as a child, which is not normal. Always acting out, getting suspended almost every year. In preschool, I was kissing 10 girls a day in aftercare, chasing them around and forcing kisses on them, which is not normal. I punched an older kid in the nose when he tried to cut me for video games. I was never malicious in class and school, but I was constantly disruptive and acting out because I had all this energy and upset caused by, well, I'll get into it in a sec. But all my behavior, no one ever asked, were you ever abused or molested? Which I gave all of the red flags for, and no one noticed. Because everyone was trying to be impressive and gain status, and what they call now aura farming, trying to get others to think they're cool in a pathetic, desperate display. So that's the childhood evidence. Oh, and one more thing. When we were in London, Elizabeth, my older sister by 6 years, we had 2 hotel rooms, and you were in one, and then 3 of us would be in one other one, and one of us had to stay in your room. And my older brother, James, said, well, Elizabeth should stay in your room, and she started crying immediately, and what daughter is scared to be alone with her father? So that signaled to me that she was probably hurt by you. And if I was hurt by you, which I'll get into in a second, she was, then my older brother also probably was. Why would he be spared? My little brother was likely spared because you got divorced around the time of his birth, so you didn't get a chance to hurt him. You would have already been out of the house around that time, so hopefully he was spared. But that's the childhood evidence. In my 20s, I remembered one memory of you doing oral on me when I was in my crib around 1 year old. I'm just guessing because it was a 20-year-old memory. And so you have to just take it at face value. And I did a lot of testing on it to see if I was making it up out of anger for the other pedophile stuff that I had seen in you, or if it was genuine. And after much testing, even though it was foggy and it was decades later, I do believe it is true that you did do that. And then about 10 years after that, of processing it and finally talking to my siblings about it, telling my family, calling the cops about you, when I was 34, or 33, sorry, around a year ago from today, I had a vivid dream of you fully penetrating i.e. sexual battery and rape of me when I was even younger, around 6 months old is the guess I have. And after much testing, I did come to believe certainly that also did happen, and that it wasn't many times, but it was multiple times, and the number I landed on was about 4. That's what feels right, and that's all you can really do when memories are, so young and so long ago. You just have to trust your gut on these things. So the story that I feel is true now is that you did rape me about 4 times when I was between 6 and 12 months old. Which also explains my hyper-sexual obsession even as young as 5 years old. Looking at porn, showing porn to kids at school, like acting out constantly, always upset, always angry, and unknowing why. So that answers why I was always the way I was, which I never understood why. It's because I had to survive and repress the memory in order to survive. Because you cannot bite the hand that feeds when you're 6 months old. Or, could risk starvation or being abandoned, or an accident might happen, It's a very scary time for a child, and you violated rather than protected. And that's why you'll probably go to hell, and that's why you're obsessed with healing and with Jesus and with Christianity, because you have these urges that we've all seen. The worst of it, I only remembered after childhood, but we all knew you were a pedophile growing up. That's undisputed by everybody. There's too much evidence for that. But I remember the worst of it after, and my siblings, now they know, my family knows, the cops know, even though there's no evidence 30 years later, obviously. It's out in the open, and it's a topic of discussion at the very least. And so hopefully you have fear and paranoia and shame, because I also told you, and so hopefully you're not doing it anymore because you've been scared straight. I don't know if that's true, but the cops are aware of you, and so I also called Willow Creek as well as the Renaissance Fair, 2 places I know that you could have access to kids, to warn them. And so I've done all my part. I feel like my conscience is clear. I've told everybody. I set the record straight with you. I've detached myself entirely from you and have been supporting myself. Not financially rich, but I think I'm richer in joy and reality than I've ever been. All of your millions never made you happy, and that linked in with your pedophilia makes you, in my mind, one of the poorest people in the world in terms of reality, not finances, which don't attribute much to happiness. Just it minimizes discomfort, I think, in life. But that's all the stuff I wanted to say. The evidence against you, my recollections, what I've done to clear my conscience, and that I'm thriving spiritually and emotionally, and I have a job, and I support myself. I live in nature, which makes me happy. I'm in a geodome right now. I'm going to build a more secure home soon, slightly larger. But that's everything I wanted to say, and I almost feel like you don't deserve a call from me because you are so full of lies and you never tell the truth, and all you would do is deny, which is what you've done in the past. When I tried to get you to talk about this stuff, you said, well, I've never had a problem with this, with pedophilia, even though, even without my memories, you were still a known pedophile. But the memories make it certain that you're not just a pedophile, but a child molester and rapist. And so that's all the stuff I wanted to say. The stats say that you can be saved. Pedophiles have some of the highest change rates of any group, they want to change, they just don't know how. You were probably molested, and if the stats are right, in your case, it was probably your dad. I know you left state, family, and religion after a fight with him, and so there was obviously upset between you two, and so that may have been caused by molestation when you were a kid. People don't just become pedophiles in a vacuum out of the blue, so you were likely molested, and your dad is the biggest suspect, I think. But you're obviously disturbed. But pedophiles do want to change. They don't like who they are. You never stood by it. You never boldly claimed it to everyone you met. You always were seeking healing, but I think you don't know how to escape it. And it's partly tied because of your financial wealth. As long as you care about status and being better than others, you'll never fix the permanent inferiority that you have inside, because you're trying to chase healing externally through status, which will never give it to you. So as long as you care about money and status, you'll never be free of pedophilia. That's just the fact. And that's the gist of it. I'll always hate your behavior because it's evil, but you do have the potential to change, but you have to stop caring about status and become human again and not be a monster. And that's all I've got to say. All right.